The Marvels movie was not that bad. Wait, hear me out. It's not that great either, but I would go as far as to say that it's at least entertaining. Spoilers if you haven't seen the movie and still care. The movie has a whole bunch of issues for sure, whether it's the lackluster villain whose name I can't be bothered to remember, the inconsistencies in how Nick Fury is portrayed when you compare it to his character in Secret Invasion, or the MCU's apparent addiction to hinting at other bigger projects, a cliche that has become incredibly tiresome at this point.
Hank?
Ororo, Charles.
That being said, there are also some highlights. There were genuinely funny and exciting moments throughout the film, like the concept of how the Marvels teleport every time they use their powers. That was a very unique and fascinating way to shake up combat, and it also led to creative and fun fighting sequences. Like completely overhauled Carol Danvers as a character, which made her way more relatable and in turn significantly more likable, and the universally loved cat scene. Yes, I know they're called Flarkins, but shut up. Not to mention the continued incredible performance by Kamala Khan actress Aman Vellani. And by the way, this is like her first time acting like at all, which is even more insane when you think about it. Monica Rambeau's character was fine, not really bad or good, but the moments when all three are together are undoubtedly enjoyable. There are also other good parts of the film that didn't stand out as much, like how hilarious and lovable Kamala's family is, and how in addition to this, they're pretty much the only on-screen representation of Muslims that isn't in a negative light. As a Muslim myself, I'm here to tell you that's pretty much unheard of. Other than Remy, which is basically a Muslim version of Lil Dicky's Dave, but it came out first and is just as good, Muslim rep is scarce. Side note, don't believe the hype. When done well, representation is highly appreciated. Anywho, that's all well and good, but there are also other problematic parts that I didn't mention. Like the plot. Wait, the plot? What do you mean the plot is bad? Like the story as a whole? Doesn't that mean the movie itself is flawed? Don't worry, I hear you. But to better answer that question, we're going to have to look at the MCU in its entirety. This may be a hard pill to swallow, but as an avid MCU fan, actually, nah, fan isn't good enough. As an avid MCU enthusiast, that's better. I'm here to tell you, Marvel films have always had simple plots, sometimes even outright bad ones, with bad writing, and yet we still champion them. I'll give you a few examples. The first Iron Man was pretty good, and the first of its kind, so I'll give it a pass. The Incredible Hulk, while a personal favorite of mine, is widely considered to be mediocre, and even I only really liked it when the Hulk himself was on the screen. Then we have Thor and Iron Man 2, two movies that most MCU fans will tell you firsthand are trash. I implore you to tell me the name of the villain from either movie. No, seriously, tell me, like, I don't know. Okay, Whiplash. Oh, I remember him. That's the guy. And Thor's villain is the Destroyer. Okay. Who? Captain America is kind of hard to talk about because while Red Skull wasn't that bad, he wasn't that good either. And the story itself was okay at best. See a pattern? For some reason, it's really hard for Marvel to make a good villain. They are surprisingly rare. And for some reason, Marvel has a tendency to kill them off the second they are defeated. My best guess as to why they might do this is to prevent the audience from thinking, why don't they show up later? But I think that's easily explained in other ways. And that isn't just an issue for these first set of movies either. Marvel's villain problem is very much still ongoing. Here's a thought experiment for you. Ask yourself, what is one thing you can remember about the first Captain America movie other than the final scene when Steve wakes up?
Yeah, I had a date.
Yeah, I can't lie, that was perfect. But the rest of the movie? Kinda bland. Mind you, this was the first 4 years of the MCU, and it wasn't until the monumental success of the Avengers did people finally start to see a glimpse of what was to come. The Avengers marked another first for the MCU, and when it came out, no one really knew what to expect. Now, upon rewatch, it's nostalgic and honestly refreshing to see how far the MCU has come. Now let's compare the Avengers to something like No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home is without a shadow of doubt my favorite MCU movie, and honestly probably one of my favorite movies of all time. Like top 100, not top 10, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But if you appreciate No Way Home as much as I do, I would recommend watching it again home alone. When I watch No Way Home alone, okay, that's a lot. The third Spider-Man movie, can we call it that? Now dig on this. Oh no, that third Spider-Man movie. Okay, let's just go back to No Way Home. When I watched No Way Home alone for the first time, I liked it just as much. I mean, what do you expect? This is what I wore to the theater. But personal biases aside, I don't think the average viewer would feel the same excitement upon rewatching it at home. Even I have to admit, it's nowhere near as impactful. The main reason for this is because No Way Home wasn't just a movie. It was more like a social event. And without all the anticipation backing it, it loses one of the main pillars keeping the movie standing. The rose-tinted glasses we had upon the first viewing start to crack. This leads me to the overall issue I think the MCU is facing. And no, it's not just hero fatigue, nor is it the fact that all the characters we started this MCU journey with have died, changed dramatically, or like Spider-Man, have a fate that's kinda up in the air. Rather, I think the MCU fans have lost our rose-tinted glasses for an amalgam of reasons. And to make matters worse, while we clearly know what we don't want, I don't think we as fans know what we do want. And that is truly an MCU first. Everyone agrees that the Disney Plus MCU shows are horrible. Well, not Loki. Loki's amazing. Okay, other than Loki. Everyone, actually, WandaVision was good too. And so was Moon Knight. And what about Werewolf by Night? Does that count? Because that was really good and... Okay, so some of the shows were pretty good, but most were horrible. Even though I have a love-hate relationship with Miss Marvel. I think across the board, everyone can agree that most of the shows could have been handled significantly better. However, the subpar treatment of Marvel television is by no means a new phenomenon. Marvel shows have always been this inconsistent in quality. Everyone likes to bring up the Netflix shows and compare them to the Disney Plus shows and how they are nowhere near as good. But other than Daredevil and The Punisher, the rest were not that good either. Luke Cage had a pretty stale first season and a truly disappointing second, which I'm pretty sure no one even watched. Oh, and by the way, it was a horrible idea to kill off Mahershala Ali's character, and in such an anticlimactic fashion. I don't remember his character's name. Maybe I'm just bad with names. Anyway, I'm assuming they killed him off because they couldn't afford him. Mahershala Ali had just won an Oscar for his role in Moonlight, and now he's kind of bigger than ever. Wait, I remember his character's name. It was Cottonmouth. See, that's how you know he was a good villain. There's no way they chose to get rid of him. Admittedly, I've never finished Jessica Jones, but from what I've heard, the main selling point was the performances of Christian Ryder and David Tennant's roles as Jessica and Mr. Purple. Oh, and the tremendous failure that was Iron Fist. Actually, I don't think I need to talk about how bad that was. The Defenders was fine, but honestly, it's kind of hard to fumble a superhero team-up.
Why did you say that name?
Maybe not. But there are other Marvel shows besides the ones on Netflix, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter, which were both objectively bad, and Inhumans, which literally was so horrible it was cancelled after the first season. But I mean, what do you expect? It aired on ABC, which is basically CW. I'm looking at you, Flash fans. But it doesn't stop there. The Runaways, which was a Hulu original, was cancelled after 3 seasons. There was also Cloak and Dagger, which I am actually 100% positive no one watched. I have never heard anyone talk about this show in any capacity whatsoever. Like, seriously, could someone please tell me what this show is even about? To make matters worse, it aired on Freeform of all places. If you're wondering what the hell Freeform is, it's a network that virtually doesn't even exist anymore. So obviously the show was cancelled after 2 seasons? Oddly enough though, I don't think Daredevil is the best Marvel TV show. And no, it's not Loki either. What I consider to be Marvel's best TV show is a little known hidden gem by the name of Legion. Legion, if you're wondering, is about the son of Professor X. Yes, Professor X as in Charles Xavier from the X-Men. Legion himself is an immensely strong and telepathic mutant. The kicker being, he's clinically insane, has multiple personality disorder, and may or may not be possessed by an equally powerful Egyptian god. Lowercase g on that god, by the way. The show premiered on FX in 2017 and ran for 3 seasons. Legion is filled to the brim with creative sequences and amazing performances, one of which being Aubrey Plaza, who is a major standout, but Dan Stevens, who plays the protagonist, is also phenomenal. I mainly brought this up because no one ever talks about Legion, even though it's basically perfect. I might even do a video on it sometime in the future, but I digress. I say all this to say that Marvel shows have always been all over the place. The only thing that Disney Plus did differently was throw so many shows at us at the same time that it felt more apparent how bad some of these shows were. Although I guess the Disney Plus shows came with a guarantee of being canon to the MCU, so people expected more from this streamlined approach. I personally think the decision to make the Disney Plus shows mandatory to watch was to the detriment of the MCU, especially because the shows had a lukewarm reception. I think it makes more sense just to have character work stories in the shows so we as an audience not only have a deeper understanding of the characters, but also grow more attached to them. That way we can leave the big Mega Laser Voltron Mighty Morphin boss battles to the movies with a bigger budget. But hey, what do I know? I'm still not sure if I like the idea of introducing characters in this show format though. On one hand, I think it makes sense to have a character origin story in a show format, especially if these shows are focused on character work to begin with, because that is the crux of every good origin story. But also, I don't like the idea of forcing viewers into a subscription service just to find out why they should care about this new character you're trying to shove down their throat. Really, it just comes down to execution. People like to put the blame on hero fatigue considering the insane influx of superhero content we've been getting as of late. But the argument seems to disappear whenever you look at movies like Guardians of the Galaxy or Across the Spider-Verse or even Batman for that matter. Spider-Verse came out in June of 2023 and people are still talking about it. But okay, so all Marvel has to do is make better movies, right? Just get good, problem solved? Unfortunately, I think it's a little more complex than that. Phase 4 had its studs for sure, like your Thor 4s and Black Widows and Ant-Mans, but Shang-Chi, No Way Home, Wakanda Forever, those are all well-made movies. Like, I genuinely believe that there would be way more Wakanda Forever appreciation if it wasn't sandwiched between Thor Love and Thunder and Ant-Man Quantumania. Then there are movies like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness that are a little more divisive. I still say the film had all the right elements, great sequences, great direction, and a great vision, and also a perfectly fine storyline with no more plot holes than any other MCU movie, and two fan-favorite characters in Wanda and Strange himself, yet there are plenty of fans that hate that movie. Then there's also movies like Eternals where everyone pretty much came to the consensus is a horrible movie or boring at best, and I have to say, and bear with me here, I kinda like the Eternals. I thought the cast did a great job and the action sequences looked amazing. I mean, yeah, there were some pretty dull moments, but just look at Makari run. Look at it. And when the Celestial pulled up, that looked phenomenal. But whatever, I'll just accept that I'm the only one with that viewpoint. Rant aside, I think the issue here is clear. Over the last decade of Marvel films, the MCU has standardized its formula, and fans, even though we are the ones that cultivated this formula to begin with, are no longer intrigued and immersed by what Marvel has to offer. Immersion is key. Without it, we just can't get lost in the world that is the MCU. And with that, the clinks in the armor are much more obvious. Remember how I said I dressed up in full costume for No Way Home? I wasn't the only one. Other than my friends that I went with, there were other random people that dressed up as well and stopped to experience that moment with us. That's what I truly think was lost. The MCU just doesn't feel like a moment anymore. It doesn't feel like an event. Even with all of its problems, No Way Home is the perfect example of what Marvel is capable of at its best. The movie wasn't just a film, it was an experience. And not just any experience, one that only the MCU could provide. Even though I'm pretty sure Spider-Man might just be a hack because I dressed up for Across the Spider-Verse 2, but that was Sony and I'm pretty sure that's the only project they're ever gonna get right, considering what they did in the past and what they have planned, but that's neither here or there. MCU fans are more divided than ever, so of course we don't really know what we want. And it's no surprise that Marvel's starting to throw random shit at the wall to see what sticks. And I feel like a lot of you are gonna get to the end of this video and come to the conclusion that I'm basically just saying the MCU has always been mid, so we can't expect it to get any better. And to that I say, of course it isn't unfair to ask a movie franchise to want to improve after 10 plus years of making movies. However, what I am saying is we have to be fair in what we expect from them. In other words, we can't ignore when they do something that's actually amazing and then the second a bad movie comes out, all of a sudden the MCU's dead again. But the blame isn't all on us either. Marvel has undoubtedly had some major missteps that are in need of serious course correction. I'm merely saying, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Realistically, we all know Marvel isn't going anywhere. They make way too much money. If you need any proof of that, look no further than Sony. They continue to put out horrible movies back to back. The Michael Jordan of vast movies, if you will. And they still continue to do so. Want to know why? Because people consistently go see them, thus they consistently make money. So from a business standpoint, why stop? Although I think Marvel wants fans to actually enjoy the films they put out. That way, they can squeeze as much money out of the average person as physically possible. But in order to do that, some changes are needed. I quite frankly have no clue if the MCU has a second wind. Will the Jonathan Majors situation completely dismantle any chance of the MCU having an enjoyable big bad? Or will Kang be replaced by someone even better like Doctor Doom? Only time will tell. But the one thing I know for sure is that with 2024 only having one MCU movie and that movie being Deadpool 3, it's pretty much a sure thing, especially considering all of the previously owned Fox characters that are said to make an appearance. There's also other promising things on the horizon, like the possible new status quo that is Marvel Spotlight, which is basically a promise to fans that some Marvel content is going to be more character focused. And I believe
Kang can save the world.
we might have another moment on our hands. Or it could be horrible and all hope is lost. But circling all the way back, wow, I guess I kind of went on a crazy tangent there, but a necessary one, because the Marvels is really just a jumping off point. Yes, the plot is bad, but the movie is so much fun, and I think it had some actual care put into it. I'm scared the only reason why people will never watch it is because they assume it's going to be horrible. I'm even more afraid that fans will apply the same notion to every other MCU movie that doesn't have a popular lead. Honestly, all I'm really saying is, don't give up on the MCU. At least, not just yet. Anyway, you're one in a million, and I'm Jamillion. Peace.